Hello everyone. Today we will be unboxing another figurine for the week. Here we have is a figure from the manufacturer's Kotobukiya, a figurine part of their OSHI Works line, is a 1/8 scale PVC figure of the character Vash the Stampede, appearance based on the series TRIGUN Stargaze. As always, before we take the figurine out of its packaging, just in case you didn't know, TRIGUN or TRIGUN is a manga series serialized in Tokuma Shoten's Monthly Shonen Captain in 1995, written by the mangaka Naitou Yasuhiro, who's also worked on other series like S. Furaito Naitou Yasuhiro Sakuhinshu in 1989, Samurai Spiritsu in 1995, and Kekkai Sensen in 2009. TRIGUN has another manga called TRIGUN Makishimamu or TRIGUN Maximum, published in Shonen Gahosha's Young King Awazu in 1997 by the same mangaka Naitou Yasuhiro. There's also an anthology manga called TRIGUN Multiple Bullets, consisting of a lot of other mangakas, but to save up on time, I'll show you guys a couple of their pictures here on screen. The original series had an anime adaptation by the same name, aired in 1998, consisting of 26 episodes, and a movie called TRIGUN Badland Rumbles in 2010, both movie and series by Studios Madhouse. So this figurine we have here is actually based on the remake or the spin-off called TRIGUN Stampede. That's an anime original aired in 2023, consisting of 12 episodes by Studios Orange, which also has a season 2. TRIGUN Stargaze, aired in 2026 by Studios Orange. So here we have is the Humanoid Typhoon, Vash the Stampede. Here this is box rotating in 360, and based on the box we can see he's actually labeled TRIGUN Stargaze based on the newer adaptation. So let's just take him out of the box and see how the figurine looks up close. So here we have is Vash the Stampede straight out of his packaging, and we can see here he's actually wrapped with this protective plastic around the figurine to prevent any scrapes or scratches on the paint on the figurine. We can see here the base is located at the bottom, and it's also wrapped with protective plastic. Besides that, there's not really much else to show you guys on this figurine's packaging, so let's just move on to actually remove all this and see how the figurine looks up close. So here we have is the figurine's base, and just like we do with every other figurine, here at the bottom of the figurine there is information for the figurine, such as the manufacturer and other information here at the bottom. Not too much besides made in China and a little bit of text. You can see here at the bottom is actually quite glossy, and besides that there's not really too much else to show you guys besides the lining to keep it propped up and held together, but there's not really too much else to show. Kind of looks like a Windows logo. But here at the top portion we do see here, again, nothing too much besides the series' name, TRIGUN Stampede or Vash the Stampede. You can see there is a little bit of weight to it. That is because I think this is a metallic material here, because when I was taking the figurine out the packaging there is magnets underneath here, so I'm assuming this is some magnetized or metal material where you could place the figurine on top of, but we'll look at that later. And the edges are nothing too special. It's actually flat and smooth, and it kind of holds up this quite well. Again, this has a little bit of weight to it, and the text here, you can see they actually did a pretty nice job having it labeled here. It's same black, but it's a little bit of a darker black compared to the lighter black on the back, but because of my lighting it kind of makes it look like it's gray. But besides that, nothing too much else to show you, so let's just place this down and see the figurine. So here we have is Vash the Stampede in his stylized new version or new look from the newer series, Vash the Stampede, TRIGUN Stampede, and also Stargaze. So, just like we do with every other figurine, here at the bottom, starting from his foot area, we do see here at the bottom, just like I mentioned earlier, he does have a magnet here to be placed on top of his base. He also has a magnet on this foot here to keep it magnetized. And you can see the bottom of his foot actually is quite detailed, which is like much appreciated because you're not normally going to see this area, but they did add the extra steps to actually make it detailed, which is quite good. See at the bottom, looks really nice. You can see the way the design is quite well as well. See here, this also is quite designed as well, which is really nice. Going up to the top portion where we see his main boot area, which again looks really detailed. You can see the laces, the way it's tied, the black around his boot, a bit of creases around the brown. You can see the tip of it there, a little bit creased up as well. You can see it's almost like it's all worn out because he's constantly walking around the desert areas, which again looks really well detailed. I know these OSHI Works tend to be, I think Kotobukiya's version of like a pop-up parade, like Good Smile Company, so it's not going to be like necessarily the best detail like their other figurines that they do come out, but it's kind of like more the lower price, more affordable range that you usually see like with other figurines. Going up his legs, we do see his shorts, which I think are quite blended well. You can see they look really nicely sculpted. The paint looks really nice as well. It's going to be a little bit hard to show you guys behind him because he has this long trench coat. But going down you see, going up you see his pants looks really nicely rugged, really nicely sculpted with all these creases and stuff. You see his holster here for his gun, which is behind his trench coat, which again is going to be a little bit hard to show you, but you do see he has it there. He does have sculpted backside and the back of his pants there, but again it's going to be a little bit hard to see because alright, so I tried my best, but yeah, I can't really flash a light in there without blurring everything, so but he does have sculpted pants underneath there, and there's a sculpt underneath. But we do see here, moving on to his trench coat, which looks really nicely sculpted. It does have this blue inside here where it kind of gives it a wavy look to it, because you can see there's these little creases around, which is quite detailed, just like we saw with his pants, which looks really nice. You can see the zipper looks alright painted, going around his outer side of his trench coat, which is quite big, all the way to his shin area. You can see the same way we saw on the inside, they did have outside here with all these like creases, which looks really nicely blended together. The paint on these buttons here in the back look really nice as well. Nothing really too bad. A little bit of the red did fall a little bit on the button, but again, this is a little bit more of a pricey range. I noticed here's a little bit rugged as well. You can kind of see the paint looks a little bit off here. Again, I kind of give that a pass because we do the same thing with pop-up parades, so I'm not going to criticize it too much. Here, going up to the top of this section of the zipper, looks okay. You could see a little bit of coloration of the silver fell on the red, but probably because this area was a little bit more smaller to paint. They did their best to actually paint this, so I do appreciate that they did align it quite well. Going all the way up, you see the paint's actually aligned with the silver. Same section here, they did the same thing here with this side of the zipper, which again is much appreciated, especially how small that this little area is. It's going to be a little bit harder to get it on the zipper section, so they didn't really blend it too much with the red coat. But overall sculpt of this trench looks really nice. It is flexible, but I advise don't necessarily do that because I feel like you could break this if you flex it too much. But it is flexible, and I'm only showing you guys that you could do that, so I'm saying don't really do what I'm doing here. Taking a closer look here, we do see his black pants, which looks kind of nicely well sculpted. Same thing with his shirt here. It's not too much detail besides the crease lines, but it's just pure black. Going up to his section here where you do see this text where it says Seeds or Project Seeds, which is a somewhat legible state You could kind of read it, but it's quite small. But it is a pretty decent painted text there with a bit of an X symbol there. Going up, you see the metallic section here on his top coat, which they did paint quite well, all the way to this arm here where you have this little robot arm, where you do see this metallic blue coloring, which is quite nicely painted. It has a glossy texture and it's actually a little bit reflective where you see my finger here on it, which looks really nice. Going down, which you can see is quite well sculpted. You do see there's a little bit of a section here in between, just like we see in the show, where it's this kind of like almost like representing a bone structure. Have you ever seen like the arm bone? Kind of see like it kind of has that spacing in between. We do see here his hand is in this closed posture where it kind of seems you can see all the little texture work they added around his fists. You see his closed fist on the front, but because you can't really move this arm, you can't see the other side. But from what I can see, it's really nicely sculpted and really detailed. You do see a little bit of fingernails on there too, so it's actually pretty nicely detailed. So this hand looks really good. You can see the back of his coat here with his hoodie. Same crease work, same texture work, looks really nice. All the way to this side of his arm where it also has Project Seed, but instead of being written or painted on, it is actually a sculpt mold on his right arm, where you see his arm is being a little bit curved upwards in his upward posture, going up to his section here with his real arm, where he's holding onto his gun here. You can see he has a glove with his hand, holding onto his newer stylized revolver, which is a little bit more futuristic than what we saw in the original series, where he has kind of like a regular default revolver, but here he has a little bit more of a cybernetic type style gun. So it's kind of similar to the older one, but a little bit more different. The detail around it looks really nice, kind of a little bit more flat finish rather than like a silvery reflective finish like a regular gun, but I think it looks really nicely sculpted. This does feel a little fragile though, from the way I'm feeling it right here, where you could bend it a little, so just don't really apply too much pressure in this section to avoid snapping it. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that it's really fragile, it just means that it feels like too much pressure would break this. Here's the front of the gun, really detailed. Top portion here, really good. So now here going to his facial sculpt, which looks really nice. You do see here they sculpted it quite well and they actually painted it really nice. The glasses look really good as well. Here's a side profile. And then here's his other side profile, which kind of gets blocked by the gun, but you can see they actually painted it quite well. The glasses look kind of like the same material we've seen on their other Vash the Stampede figurine from Bad Lad Rumbles. Like, it looks the same. So his glasses tend to be a little bit delicate, so this kind of looks like it'd be delicate. You can't remove it, so don't really be touching the glass, because I would assume that material could possibly break if you put too much pressure on it. You can see I can kind of move it a little, so there is a possibility that will break if you kind of play around with it, so I'd say don't really be touching it. See his earrings on this ear, his little mold on the side. See his eyes are also blue on the inside there, with his glasses and shades blocking it. He does have eyebrows on the top portion, and we see his stylized hair, which is really detailed, because it does have these individual hair pieces kind of going to the side, but it's a little bit flat, whereas the coloring is in the mid-range, not too detailed. Same thing with his back portion of his hair there at the bottom, where it does have a bit of sculpting, but it's not too detailed. See the inside of his neck portion there, where it's also blue. And that should be it. There's not really too much else to show you. Oh yeah, here's the top portion of how it would look. That should be it. So in its entirety, it actually looks really well sculpted. It's actually really detailed. It does fall a little flat in some areas, but I'll give it a pass because it's supposed to be like a pop-up parade, so it's a little bit more affordable. So let's just place this on its base and complete the unboxing. you also get this OSHI Works sticker that comes in the packaging. So I forgot to show you guys this earlier, but you do get this, so you can place it wherever you want to. Alright guys, so that's going to be the end of this one. So that was Kotobukiya's OSHI Works 1/8 scale PVC figure of the character Vash the Stampede. Appearance based off the series TRIGUN Stampede. All in all, I gotta say, is actually quite an interesting figurine. As I stated earlier in the video, I believe these Kotobukiya's version of a pop-up parade because the price is a little bit more in the affordable range, just like we get with Good Smile Company's pop-up parade. Personally, I think the OSHI Works has actually a little bit more detail than what we see with pop-up parades. In this figurine, I think the main areas where we see a lot of detail is his arm, or his cybernetic arm, his boot, a little bit of his gun, and his face, which looks really nicely done. But his shirt, his pants, his jacket, even if though it has a little bit of detail on it, I think they could have done a little bit more shading on his jacket. And the black shirt looks a little bit more bland, which I could have feel like they could have made it a little bit more sculpted on his shirt. But I'm not going to be too nitpicky on it because again, this is supposed to be a little bit more on the affordable range figurine, so you're going to see a little bit less detail on these figurines compared to their more pricey ones, which they are a pricier range figurine for in his Stampede form, which I'll show you guys a couple pictures here, which that actually looks quite well because it's actually in a dioramic type view. But again, I went with this one because I wanted to see how he would look with just Vash the Stampede. I actually really do like the magnet base, which is a lot more unique than what we see with other figurines that give you a insert peg or maybe a hole where you insert it onto the base. Kotobukiya with their OSHI Works had a magnet, which is really well done, so you can kind of pose them in certain spots on the base rather than just one dedicated spot, which is a plus for the figurine. It could also be a negative too if you don't really like, if you don't want to accidentally bump into it or drop it and then it'll pop off the base. But I personally do like the way it looks and it gives it a little bit more weight to the figurine. I honestly think it's a really nice figurine, and if you were looking into getting this, I highly recommend it. It's actually a really well done figurine. What do you guys think of the figurine yourself? Would you get it or would you get their other Kotobukiya figurine? I do know they're also coming with an OSHI Works Nicholas D. Wolfwood in his appearance from TRIGUN Stampede, which I also did order, so when that comes in I'll also make an unboxing and have these two side by side. Alright guys, so that's going to be the end of this one. I don't want to keep holding you guys back for too long. So that's going to be the end of this one. If you have not actually checked out TRIGUN Stampede, personally I'd say go watch the original to get a feel of how the original series was, then jump into TRIGUN Stampede all the way up to Stargaze. But you don't necessarily need to watch the original because TRIGUN Stampede is its own canon, so you can either start, you could just start on TRIGUN Stampede if you would like. But again, I'd recommend you go to the original series or maybe the manga, and then the series, and then TRIGUN Stampede. Alright guys, so that's going to be the end of this one, so I'm going to leave you guys off with the figurine rotating in 360 and other angles and close-up shots of the figure. So, as I always say, always support the original creators for a set series of figurines that we unbox. Thank you guys for coming to the channel and supporting it, I really do appreciate it. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. 君の光をもしもそれが変わることなく空の上で輝くのなら迷う
しで